mic is on. I'm not sure. Test 1, 2, 3.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Well, people here today. Some of them are kin too. Have you met your kin out there? Have you met the Snow, the Cindy? Okay, so that's good. I don't hear it.
He had audio. Your video's not dubbed in audio?
Maybe this won't have to be 16. No.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Here.
Well, you should probably bring up your file for him. You should probably bring up your video for him. Your video, you should probably bring it up for him.
So,
He wants to test
here's
it.
one of my. You hear, take 2 cases, give it to your family.
Okay.
Videographer.
This is the channel. Already got it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Look at them boots.
Wiley always wore boots.
You have it on the hard drive.
Yes, my wife bought me a pair of snake shields that just zip up when I go somewhere.
That's what you ought to be wearing. That's to do with snakes.
Yep, that's what it has to do with.
Yes. You'll just have to wait. Were we gonna shoot down? No, let's wait and see what you do. It'll probably be outside if we were gonna shoot.
I'll have to go up there and before I turn it off, I'll go up and get a close up of that wall thing.
As you're coming in, if you want to come up and see some things from the Oakley family, these are hand carved ivy. Come on up here, man. Just tell me about it. These are from your dad.
These are toys that my father had made. And his dad was Wiley Oakley. So you're welcome to come up and look at these. I prefer not to be played with, but you look at them. They're very old.
Isn't the Oakley?
Her name is Vivian.
They had.
I'm terrible.
And over on this side are some books that you can buy. Some are free. This is the free stack, not fee. This is Wiley's book, $5. And Lucinda's book,
That
$10.
icon.
No, that's way too
Look, there's Nana's friend. All the friends.
Cynthia, do you know where the clock is? Oh, can't see it. What is it?
Got it over there. Yeah.
Let it play, let it play. Sorry, wait.
I think you guys will look at that picture. That's my grandma. That's my aunt.
So go in.
That's my aunt.
That's cute.
That, you want to look at my aunt? That's my aunt.
My grandmother, well, it's not true.
Yeah.
You want? I was gonna wear a coat, but it's a little. On the video here, you are seeing some of the photos of the Oakley family through the years. That, for example, is Lucinda, there's Wiley and Lucinda and Harvey. And there is music to go with it, but we started a little late, so we'll do it without the music right now. Cool items, eh? There's also a lighter up here. But you gotta show this.
Did you want to?
I tell you, you walk across the stage and back, and when you're done, then I'll get started. Give you the introduction. So turn your camera on. Jeffrey, you do it. Walk it up. Just walk across and then back. Okay.
Light switch is right over there.
Oh, can I make it brighter maybe? This one?
Yeah, that one.
Well, that's all. So I can't get it any brighter.
Oh, you want more light?
Yeah.
Well, that, I don't know if you can help with that.
Where's the duck? Where's the duck? Oh, across here though. We want to see. Never mind.
Light up there. Just goes around.
Everybody said you have to walk across the
Fence.
You're right. Anyway, this is a duck created by Charles with the old inner tubes flapping along. Good. Thank you.
I feel like that.
You should have put,
Thank you, Jeffrey.
you should have put Pat on that.
Jeffrey is the grandson of Lucinda Oakley, and he's brought a rifle to show us. Okay, I
Used to
that
make
fall
them
here
sell
all
to the
over.
tourists.
One more thing, let's get Wiley's photo out here. These two photos are historic in the sense that they were in the living room of the home of Wiley and Rebecca. That was Rebecca. These were in their home many years in the original frames that they used and everything. Well, hello everybody, and welcome. We're finally going to get started.
Okay.
Welcome to Wiley of the Wild Woods is the name of the program. And my name is Lou Bolton. And I've got some big shoes to fill tonight, or big boots to fill tonight, because I'm standing in for Wiley Oakley, who was known as what? The Roman man of the mountains. And so let's get started. Where's the stick? There's a stick around here somewhere. I saw a stick. There's a stick. Okay. Oh, I'm going up to the mountains, Smoky Mountain wilderness. Here I am, Roman man, Wiley Oakley. Well, howdy. Can I hear a howdy back from you?
Howdy!
Oh, what a good group. You're not wet from this weather after all. Well, glad you came tonight. I want to tell you, I'm Wiley, and I like stories. Do you like stories? You like stories? Well, I would like to tell you some stories from the Smoky Mountains this evening. And these are stories from way back. These are mostly from my youth, when I was a boy, a teen, and a young married man. Not this old geezer right here, but earlier on. And most of them are going to be hunting stories, not all. And I'm going to tell you some true stories. In fact, most of them are true tonight. And occasionally I'll tell a tall tale. Now, there's something that I do if I come to the end of a tall tale. What is that, Penny? What do I do? Yodel?
What does Wiley do at the end of a tall tale?
Yodel, that's right. Hallelujah, or gargle in my case. But so if I do that, that means if you don't want to believe that that's a true story, you don't have to. So, as I said, these are from way back. These are stories from before the park was even thought of, that far back. Long time ago. I was born in 1885. And I was born at the foot of Mount LeConte. You know that mountain with the three little pimples up at the top? Mount LeConte. And they say that I was born like 2-3 months early. I guess I was in a hurry to start roaming the mountains, I reckon. And so that's where it happened. Now my mother, anybody know her name?
Ezekiel, what's Wiley's mother's name?
Elmina or Mina. I assume it's pronounced Elmina, but I don't know. Elmina Connor Oakley. Now she had a lot to do with my birthing, but I like to say it this way. The stork throwed me on the bed through the window and then sailed on away. And lost all my clothes on the way. That stork. Hallelujah. See what I mean?
I knew he was going to yodel on that one.
Well, as soon as I got clothes on, and as soon as I could walk good, I would follow in the footsteps of my daddy, wherever he went, and often he was going into the wilderness. And so it was through him that I learned all about the Smoky Mountains. They were like my kindergarten. And so they were stories, there are things that I learned that I could, about the plants, about the animals, about the people, about trees, birds, bees, bugs, everything about the Smoky Mountains. I learned it while following along with my daddy. So I appreciate him for that. And through my father, does anybody know his name?
Ezekiel does.
Henry Coleman Oakley. We saw his picture earlier there. So Henry Coleman learned me about the outdoor life and about fishing, yes, fishing holes and all, and hunting. He was a real good hunter. He loved to hunt. My daddy, he took a powerful thrill from shooting a bear. Now me, I've had to kill a passel of meat in my time. But I'm just as happy learning about the animals and shooting them. And also, let me mention this where I was talking about the hunting part. Now, the hunting was done not out of sport and not out of fun. Hunting was done to put meat on the table. And also, the skins is something that we could sell and make a little money, you know? So, to make a long story short, I learned the Smoky Mountains. I learned everything I could about them. I learned everything from top to bottom that I could. And I also learned from some mistakes I made back then. And the first story I want to tell you is one of those mistakes. And it happened, it was the first time I went hunting. The first time I went, and I went by myself in the wild wilderness with all the wild animals, and I was only 6, 7 years old. And I went out there, and what was I thinking? Well, here's what got me started. My father, he was an old trapper and hunter. And in the wintertime, when he didn't go hunting, we'd sit around the fireplace, and he would tell about all the adventures that he had had. Him and his dogs, trailing troop, hunting in the Smoky Mountains. And so from hearing those stories that he told, and also from seeing the skins that he brought in. I mean, he brought in skins of all sizes, of all kinds of animals. Seeing all of that just stirred my imagination. And so I thought to myself, well, I'll just go out in the wilderness and I'll do some hunting. And I'll get me a bunch of animals and show Father what a good hunter I am. So one evening, I slipped out the back door of the cabin, and I went out to the 2 dogs, trailing troop, mighty fine dogs. They were sleeping. And I said, trail, troop. And they opened up their eyes, but then they closed them right back down. They wasn't too interested. And I said, trail, troop. I've got something here that I think you're going to like. And I'll give it to you. I'll give you a piece at a time. If you'll follow me to the wild woods and let's do some hunting. And it's cornbread. Now, cornbread was called by the mountain people corn pone. And they usually bake it in the oven or in the fireplace. And they usually do 2 pones of the pones at a time. So I had one of them. And when I held that up, those dogs, they perked up. They got up off the floor where they was. And they started wagging their tails. And they started licking their lips. So I said, let's go hunting. So off we went to the wild woods to do my very first hunt. Well, soon we reached the tall timbers. And soon those dogs, oh, they were onto something. They were chasing something. So they went way ahead of me. And then off in the distance I could hear them barking. So I know that they had treed something. So I followed the sound of the barking and I got to where they were. And they had treed something under some rocks. And I thought, oh boy, those dogs, are they going to go in there? Are they going to scratch out that animal and kill it? And that'll be my first skin. Wow. But then as I looked around, all too soon, dark was coming on. And I was like, oh my, and the chill was coming in the air. And all the sounds around me from the woods, they were scary sounding. And I started thinking, well, I don't know where I am. I think I'm maybe 3-4 miles from home, but I don't know what direction to go to get back home. And nobody knows where I am. And oh, my Father, I wonder what he'll think when he finds out that Wiley is not there. And I began to cry in tears, thinking about it. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to stay here, right here. So I found me a nice flat rock, and I got up on that flat rock, and I called the dog, Trail Troop, come over here. So Trail Troop came over, and I put my arms around these 2 dogs, these good old hunting dogs. And there was a mystery about these 2 dogs. They seemed to know that I was lost. And not only was I lost, but I was frightened of anything out there in the wild woods, because there's lots of wild animals out there that could just take my life. But these two dogs, they was taking good care of the boy who was trying to learn to hunt too soon in life. Well, it got darker and darker, and I squeezed even closer to those two dogs as it got darker. And finally I fell asleep with my arms around those dogs. And the heat from those dogs, I do believe that kept me from freezing that night. But during the night, all of a sudden, Trailing Troop was gone. They went away from the rock and woke me up. Oh Lord, where's Trailing Troop? Oh no, I'll bet a large animal has scared them off and they've gone. Maybe a bear. Oh, maybe, oh my gosh, maybe some other big animal. So I reached out and I looked out to see if I could see anything big animal out there, but I couldn't even see my hand before my face. It was that dark in there. And the only thing that I could think was, well, maybe this animal is going to come and just kill me and eat me up at any time. But at the same time, I didn't feel no claws in my skin. I didn't feel no teeth biting into me. But how soon it would be that some animal didn't come and kill me, I didn't know. About that time I heard the dogs barking off in the distance. Trailing Troop. And they was going through the brush and through the leaves and all. I could hear them. And then it got quiet again. Oh no, what's happening to Trailing Troop now? And then I saw a light. Oh, look at there. And then those dogs came running back to where I was, and they jumped all over me and lit me up, and they were so happy to see me, and I was so happy to see them. And that light was getting closer, and it was Harvey, my oldest brother. He had come to rescue me. So he came up, and boy, was I glad to see him. So he lifted me up, and I hugged around his neck, and he walked me back home through the wild woods to the family. And they was glad to see me. And Daddy said, Wiley, it's a wonder that they was able to find you tonight. I sent out several search parties, and they found you tonight. And oh, there's so many things that could have happened to you, Wiley. Don't you never do that again. And I didn't. I never went hunting by myself again for the next 2 or 3 years. So, after hearing this story, I want to ask you something. When you think of that boy, the way I was back then, are you wondering, is that the same Wiley Oakley that came to be called the #1 guide in the Smoky Mountains by the National Park? Is that the Wiley that was? Is that the Wiley that guided all these people from all over? And I mean, naturalists and botanists and politicians and celebrities and people with big, deep pockets, people like Rockefeller and Henry Ford, and even got to meet President Roosevelt. Could that be the same fella? Yes, it was. Imagine that. Me, Wiley. I mean, uneducated, never went to school. Just a plain mountain boy and all of that. Because all the time I was just thinking, well, I'm just Wiley, and I'm just doing what Wiley does, and I'm roaming these mountains and learning things and guiding these people and all. It never occurred to me that it was a big deal. So, I guess I better stop talking about that, or my head will get too big for my hat. Let's talk about the mountains. The Smoky Mountains. Big place. Over 322,000 acres. Big place. And way back then, when I was young, I mean, there was no well laid out trails around, so lots of people have got lost in those mountains over the years. And very often when I'm guiding people, they'll say, Wiley, have you ever been lost? And I'll say, not exactly. I ain't been lost. But But there has been lots of people who has got lost in these mountains. Many a story about people getting lost. And I want to tell you one of those stories, a true story. It happened a long time ago. It happened before my time, and probably even before your time. Because it was right after the Civil War. Now, it was the wintertime, and it was snowing. There was 3 feet of snow. So there was this fella from the area of the settlement, and he was trudging through that snow. And he was headed for a place called the Fort Harry Ford. Fort Harry Ford. Now, this Fort Harry Ford, especially when there's lots of water coming down, it was very difficult to cross. But at night, it was pretty dangerous to try to cross that ford. And in the ice and snow, why, you was taking your life into your own hands to try to cross it in that kind of season. And then it goes without saying that crossing the Fort Harry Ford was next to impossible in a Model T. Hallelujah! Just joking about that. So there was this fella trudging through the snow, coming to that ford. Well, he saw a glove sticking up out the ice and the snow, and on a stick or something. So he thought, well, I'll get that glove. I might be able to use that. So he went over and he tried to pull that glove out, and it was frozen solid on there. And finally pulled it up, and it was a dead man's arm. And he dropped that thing, oh, Lordy! And he ran back to the settlement, got a party together, and then they came and saw about that man when the weather allowed. And that man is buried right near the Fort Harry Fort today. So that man, now, whoever he was, and wherever he come from, wherever he was going, that man was really lost. But me, have I been lost? Well, I ain't never been lost exactly. But I have been bothered a few days, a time or two. That's for sure, a time or 3 or 4 or something like that. So that's a little story about somebody being lost in the Smoky Mountains. Well, that was a kind of a cold story, icy cold story. I think we should warm things up a little bit. Let's drag up some chairs, because I want to tell this story to these boys right here. Jump up, fella. I'm going to drag your chair up here. Let's go. Yeah, these are some of the Wiley, Ken, and Penny. Tell them who they are and how they are related.
These are 3 of my grandchildren.
3 of your grandchildren.
Ezekiel, Trayton, and Zion. They're my daughter's children. She has 6, and I've got 3 of them here.
6 kids.
There you go.
6 kids, and she brought the 3 here.
Yeah.
We're going to sit and listen to the story. From there, great.
Well, this is a hot tale. And how old are you? 11. 2?
No.
3.
3, okay. Only 6. 6. That's just around the age that I was in this story.
This one's 6 and that one's 4.
Okay. Well, we went hunting one night. Possum hunting. You know what possums are, right? You ever played possum? No? Okay. Well, we were going, there was 4 of us. My older brother, and Robert Ogle, and then a husky fella. And me, we were going. I was the youngest one. And I was so glad that my older brother, Harvey, let me tag along with him. You know, most older fellas don't want the young ones bothering around with them, right? So we were going to the mountains. We were going possum hunting. But we didn't do much good. And then we got tired of that, so we stopped. And we built ourselves a fire. A nice campfire. And we had brought along with us a mountain poleaxe. Now this is not exactly that, because the poleaxe is 2 feet long handle. This is 9 inches more, but it's got the same characteristics here. One side was like a hammer. Nice and hard, right? Yeah. The other side was a little bit sharp. Don't touch that. No. And we had taken it along in case Something was up in a tree and we treed them, and we need to chop the tree down to get to the animal. So we had this, so we were going to do something, a little game called popping fire coals. Popping fire coals.
That's mine.
It is? Okay. Well, here's the way popping fire coals went. Of course, we have a little campfire, so let's pretend we got a little campfire here. And what you done, you get a nice flat rock. So you pretend like you're holding a nice flat rock. Pretend like you got a nice flat rock there. Okay. And then what you do is you spit on the rock. Can I spit on the rock? I'll just pretend. Okay. So you spit on the rock. And then you spit on the hammer. Spit on the hammer. Not me, spit on the hammer. And then you get a hot coal from the fire. Get the hot coal from the fire. And put it right over on the rock. Put it on top of the spit. There you go. And then you raise that pole axe way up high, and then you hit it, and it goes kabang. Say kabang with it. Kabang! Whoa! It's loud. It's like a rifle going off. Oh my gosh, that was fun. Oh, we had so much fun hearing that thing go loud like that. So we wanted to keep on doing that. Spitting and hitting, spitting and hitting. Well, now, I was the youngest one. And the guy named Pinckney, he and I were the ones that were told if any sparks fly off or any coals went over the leaves and started a fire, we were supposed to put them out. So that was our job. So we done that. Well, after a while, that spitting and hitting, let's do it one more time. Make the sound when you go down. Let's say kabang. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, kabang! Whoa, we were having so much fun. But we thought we'd quit that and go do some possum hunting.
Yes, that's my favorite.
It is all right.
I want to go here.
You like possum food? Oh boy. Well, we walked away. We started walking on down the way, and as we were walking, we heard something crackling behind us. And we looked back, and there was a fire. Oh my gosh, there was a big fire started right back where we was. So we ran back and started putting out that fire. Stand up, let's put out the fire. Stand on it, stand on it. Get that fire put out. Throw some rocks on it, throw some dirt on it. Get that fire out. Oh. But we didn't do very good. You did good, but we didn't do very good that night because the fire just kept getting bigger and bigger. And so my oldest brother said, we got to get out of here. So there was a kind of a weak spot in the flames. So let's go this way, he said. So they all started running out that way, 3 of them. But I was the last one, and I was the littlest one. And by the time it got my time, that flame had got so high, it was higher than I was, and I changed my mind. I wasn't going to try to go through it. So I went in the other direction. And I started running, that thing. And all around me, oh, it was burning everywhere. Oh, it was terrible. It was just awful. And trees were falling down with flaming fire on them. And it was just everywhere. It was just hot and getting closer and closer and closer and closer. And finally, I thought, oh my, I'm a goner. But I saw this log, this big log, a hollow log. And so I decided to climb in it. Come here. Climb in this log. Climb under here in this log. Get under this log. Climb in. Get away from the fire. Climb under. There you go. Oh, yeah. And I climbed into that thing, and I didn't care if there was a snake in there, or a skunk, or a bear, or anything. I just stayed on it. Stay in there. So you just pretend you're in there. So I was in that log, and then suddenly the roar of that fire was coming over me. Oh my gosh. And oh, it was getting hot in there. Oh, it was getting so hot. I had to take my hat, and I had to put it on my face to strain out the heat. So put the bandanas on your face. We don't have a hat. Just put the bandana on your face. And strain the air. Oh, it's so hot in there. Oh my gosh. Well, finally, it seemed like that fire had passed on by. So it might be safe to come out. So come on out the hole. There you go. Oh, it came out the knot hole. Okay. Well, I looked around, It was just charcoal black trees, and there were still some trees burning, and there were limbs falling down still from burning. And I decided I shouldn't try to go on home that night. I should just stay there as long as I could. Well, I should have been dead. You know that? I mean, that big a fire and all that smoke and everything. But something saved me that night. The reason that I didn't get burned up in that hollow log is because it was a chestnut log. You ever heard of the chestnut tree? Well, the chestnut tree, some of the lumbermen calls it the acid tree, meaning it had tannic acid in it. And that tannic acid, which is used for tanning leather and other things, because it was in that tree, that's why it didn't burn up. And that's why I was saved and didn't get barbecued. Yeah, I hold that about that, too. Well, so I spent the night in that log, that good old chestnut log, and the next morning, off in the distance, I could hear, "Wiley! Wiley, where are you?" And I said, "Here, stay here. Here, I'm here, I'm here. Put up your hand, I'm here, I'm here." And I came out that log, "Oh, I'm here, I'm here." And I jumped up and down, "Here's Wiley." And it was my brother. And he had come to rescue me once again. And so he took me back home. And when I got home, oh, I got a nice, good bath. I had some good victuals to eat. And I slept like a log. But not in a log. I was done with that. So that's how a dead tree saved my life. How about that story? And thank you, boys. Appreciate you coming out. Have a seat. Good. Well, that was another hot story, but maybe we can get back to a
Got your seats,
slightly cooler story. Let's talk about it. You got that? Oh, I took your share, didn't I? This is a turkey story. Yeah. And for turkey hunting, there you go. This is a story about hunting a turkey. And Jeffrey, come on up. Jeffrey has brought a rifle that he owns. Jeffrey is the grandson of Wiley Oakley. Come on out a little closer to the people. We want to know how this thing works. It's often called a cap and ball muzzle loading rifle, right?
Yep.
Yep. And that's the percussion type. So explain to everybody. Well, first of all, where'd you get this rifle?
This is actually not Wiley's rifle. It's not a rifle either. It's a musket.
A musket.
It's not rifled. Some of them were, but this one's not. You can look in the barrel and see there's no rifling in it. But some called it a hog rifle. Some called it a squirrel rifle or squirrel gun. It's about 30 calibers. It was made by a fellow we think. We had a firearm expert take a look at it with us. He thinks it was made by a fellow out of the Boyd's Creek area named Wiley Gibson. That would have been late 1800s probably, but it was my grandfather Ogle, that's Lucinda Oakley Ogle's husband. Lucinda was his oldest daughter, was Wiley's oldest daughter, so that's my grandmother. But her husband's grandfather's musket. It's a great story if I can take just a second. When my grandfather was a little boy, he wanted this gun a lot. But his grandfather said, "You can't have it until you can carry it from my house to your house without touching the ground with it." And he would try again and again. He had to go across a couple of foot bridges between their places. But he could see all the way, and he could see that he couldn't make it, so he'd bring it back, all depressed. Finally, he got tired of it and had one of his friends go help him. And he said, like, "You grab this end and I'll grab this end and we can carry it up there." You know, he got to keep it after that. But my grandmother passed it down to me. I've never fired it. It's still functional. But the way you fire this thing, most likely, by this time the Civil War had been, so the firearms are far more advanced than this. So it was more of a, I guess you'd say, unique item that Wiley was making down in Boyd's Creek area. But he would probably carry some round balls that he either made himself or bought at the store.
Yeah, we made our own usually.
Yeah, Wiley probably made some ball molds when he gave, because it would be the right caliber for it, right? But he would probably carry a little bit of powder with him. He would pour a little powder down in here. He would press the ball in, He'd ram it home with a rammer, seat it down at the breech down here at the back. Then he would put on a percussion cap here, and of course this strikes the percussion cap, and then the percussion cap ignites the powder, which fires the ball.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now you'll understand. Would you mind if I use that in this story? Okay. So, in this winter time, probably November, a friend of mine named Don Owen and I, we was hunting. Got up early in the morning. We took our cap and ball muzzle-loading rifles, and we went up to Scratch Bridges Mountain. And it just so happened Scratch Bridges Mountain is where I lived when I first got married. And so we took our rifles and we headed toward that area. And there's a couple inches of snow on the ground. And we looked up towards Scratch Bridges Ridge, and we saw a flock of turkeys coming our way. And they're, of course, black against that white snow, so we could see them easy, but they hadn't seen us. So we ducked them behind some trees. And we waited, hoping that they'd come our way. So we waited, and those turkeys did come right in our direction. And one of them, the biggest one, the gobbler of the group, it was coming real close to me. So I motioned to Don that I was going to try to take it out. So I raised up my rifle, got a good bead on it, and got pow! I shot that turkey, and it fell down dead as 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, I was real pleased about that. So I laid my rifle down by a tree there. And then I went to get the turkey. Come here, help me get the turkey. One of you. Come on, hurry. Chop, chop. Okay, so there's the turkey. So let's pick it up. Well, when I picked it up, it started flapping its wings. Oh my gosh, and it flew away. Oh my gosh. So I guess it was only dead as 3 o'clock. Well, I had to go chase that thing. So I went down the hill chasing that turkey, and boy, it was a big one, and it was going awful fast down that mountain there, and I started running after it. And I was young, and it felt good, and I was running down that mountain, doing the turkey trot, going down that mountain. Well, got all the way down, there was a kind of a basin, and this turkey saw these big rocks, and he put his head under the rocks in the dark. And I guess the turkey thought, well, if I can't see Wiley, Wiley can't see me. So I did see him, and I got a good hold onto him this time, and I stomped down on him, and I killed that turkey dead as 5 o'clock. So finally that turkey was dead, and I grabbed it up, went back up the hill where my rifle was. My friend Don, he was laughing. He had a good laugh off of me that day. He was saying, oh, Wiley, I thought that turkey was going to take you home with him. Well, we got a good laugh out of that. And then we parted our ways, and I walked on towards home. With that great big old turkey gobbler on my back, along with my little rifle. Well, it just so happened that I was passing by the Bud Ogle cabin. You know a Bud Ogle cabin? You may know the Bud Ogle cabin. And in the yard, there was this young girl, and it just so happened she's the girl that I was going to marry about 5 years later. Her name was Rebecca Ann Ogle, and there's a picture of her a little bit later in life. So that's the story about the turkey, and I'm glad you got to see exactly how that gun works. Now, speaking of Rebecca, sort of makes me think about a different topic. There was a time in my life when all that hunting was good, but I decided I wanted to hunt something else. I wanted to hunt me up a pretty mountain gal, and I wanted to court her and marry her. So I want to tell you a quick courting tale. 2 of my friends and I, we were young, we were boys, 15 years old. We didn't know nothing about girls, or court, or none of that stuff. But we decided we wanted to try our hand at it. So, we knew this mountain man, we had 3 daughters. So we decided, well, there's 3 of us, let's go down. So we walked about 3-4 miles to get to this cabin. And as we approached, we hollered out our hello to let them know that we were okay. And people came running out the cabin from the outhouse, wherever. And they wanted to see us because Back then, people didn't have that much company, and they were more isolated, so they were glad to see company coming in. So they invited us, they noticed, by the way, our families, they invited us up on the porch. So they dragged us some chairs, we sat on the edge of the porch, we was talking and exchanging news, what was going on in the family, and whatever we hear about. Well, of course, the three of us boys, we were casting eyes at those gals most of the time, trying to see which one we hoped would like us the best. Well, the time went on, it was getting towards dark, and so they invited us to have a little bite of victuals and to spend the night. Not with the girls, of course, but to spend the night. Now, they had a one-room cabin. The Bud Oakley cabin was a two-room with the chimney in the middle, saddlebag type cabin. Theirs was a one-room. Beds was real close together inside. But they did have an attic or a loft above that room. So that's where we was going to go. We went outside, climbed up the pole ladder, and there's some pallets or something laying up there. And then we started getting undressed for bed. Well, one of the fellers, he was absorbed by being down on his knees and looking down through the boards in the floor. And he motioned us to come over, and we looked down there, and oh my gosh, it was those gals, and they was getting undressed, getting ready for bed also. And our eyes were just glued to that floor there. Well, the boards up there were nice and wide boards, and they were just laid in. Didn't have any nails. Didn't have any nails back then, mostly, and couldn't afford them. So they were just laid in there, and that first feller, I'll call him Tom, to protect the guilty. Tom, the board he was on, tipped up, and he slid right down into that room underneath, onto that bed with all those families down there. And oh, it was like the fox in the hen house. There was so much yelling and going on. Oh my God! Oh, and they were yelling and going, oh, and covering themselves and everything else. And oh my gosh, the farmer was saying, oh, I'm so sorry, young fella. Well, we didn't have no nails to nail the boards in. I apologize for that. But I hope you're okay now. Well, Tom, short for Pee-Wee Tom, he was so embarrassed. Oh my gosh, he didn't have nothing on but his long johns and this look on his face. And when he came back up where we were, he was white as a ghost. Well, of course, we giggled to it about it to ourselves up there, real quiet, of course. But then ever since that time, whenever the three of us was get together, oh, we would remember that night and what happened that night, and we would just bust out laughing all over again. Oh my gosh. Well, I guess you could say that this first time of us trying our hand at courting, it fell through. That's a story called Three Boys Courting. Thank you. Courting. Why when the courting and the heated ride? Woo! Why when the courting and the heated ride? Hey. Yee! Why when the courting and the heated ride? With a bunch of wildflowers by his side. Well, I kept on my courting and trying my hand at it. I went to lots of things in the fall, like corn shuckings, where I met Rebecca. And after some courting time, we decided to get married. So we got married, and it was in 1906. And after that, we had 12 children, not all at once, and not the next day either. But she was a wonderful woman. We got married in that Bud Oakley cabin, by the way. And so that was my experience with that part of it. But then came the life afterwards. So we got married, and then we was going to go to Scratch Britches Mountain because Harvey Henderson, my brother, had a cabin there. And he said we could go live there. So we went to that cabin at Scratch Britches Mountain, and we got there, and my daddy gave me some honey to take with us, and he showed me how to hunt for wild bee trees in the woods to find some more honey if I need it later on. So on our honeymoon, we just had honey and more honey. Mm. Well, as you probably know, honeymoons don't last forever. You wouldn't want to hear about the first time we had words, would you? You want to know when the honey turned sour? Sour with honey? Do you insist?
Yeah.
You insist on hearing? Well, you nosy people, just like me. Well, we had been there weeks, maybe a month or two, I can't quite remember. But one day, Rebecca said something to me that just didn't sound good. So I said to her, if you're going to talk to me that way, I'll get my hat and I'll go down to Dad in Gatlinburg, and you can go to wherever you want to. So I went to the door, I got my hat on, and I heard her say, Wiley. And I thought, oh, she's going to apologize. So I turned back around, and she had a smile on her face, a weird kind of a smile. And she said, Wiley, maybe you ought to give me a lock of your hair. Leave me up here in these mountains all by myself. Well, that just made me a little bit madder. So I decided to go right on. So I went right on down towards the cow barn. We managed to have a cow by that time, so we needed a barn to lock it up in at night because the bears were so thick. So we had to protect it. And as I got down towards that cow barn, I started thinking, well, you know, that's a mighty few words to leave that girl up here in the mountains all by herself. Maybe I'll just stick around and just see her out. So I decided to slip in behind the barn and wait back there. So I slipped in behind the barn. It was quiet, and I was still, and I kept listening. I kept waiting for footsteps on the pathway coming down, and I never did hear none. And I know she had to come that way because there wasn't no other way out, so she had to come that way. Well, so I waited there. I must have been half hour, or maybe on up to an hour, and I was getting tired of waiting. So I decided to peek around and look around the corner of the cow barn there and see if she's making any effort to come out. So I walked over and I peeked around the corner, and there she was. She had her head stuck out the door. She said, Wiley, why don't you come on home? And I said, I don't care if I do. I was just waiting for her to ask me. So I went back, and I've been with her ever since. Now, lots of young folks get married, and you know, sometime along the line they're going to have words. So I like to give them a little advice. And my advice is this: don't ever pass up the cow barn. It might save a lot of trouble. You got to stop and think it over. It worked with me, it just might work with you too. And now, let's see, wait a minute, I don't see many young, I see some older people out here. Some of you older people can take some of this too, you know. And if you ain't got a barn, it might pay to build one. Might save a lot of trouble. Now you can clap. Thank you. Well, I'm running behind, of course, but I'm going to hurry on. I think I'll do a tale now, another hunting tale, and hopefully I can finish it all up. Do you insist that I tell you one more tale? One more tale, insist, please insist. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, this tale, all laying out of the night. Well, Rebecca and me was living at the Scratch Fish's cabin at this time still. And we had 2 children by that time. We had Elmer, the oldest, and Lucinda. And so I would go out hunting. It was not, you know, it was early evening, still a lot of light. I thought I might catch some fresh game for maybe to eat that night. Now, I took my gun rifle, I took my powder horn, and I took my pouch. Didn't have a dog at the time, and I didn't take a lantern. It was early. I didn't think I'd be gone that long. So I walked on into the woods, and I walked like my daddy had learned me long ago to walk real quiet, just like the Cherokee, and not to break no sticks or anything. Don't scare the game off. And I was wandering further and further and couldn't see any game anywhere. I thought that was strange. But I kept on walking. And then I got to some place I'd never been before. And finally, though, I did see a flash of white. And it was the white of the undertail of a deer. Sort of flashing through the woods. And got my game. So I followed it real quiet. Finally, that deer was at a place. And then suddenly it was gone. And suddenly it was back. And then finally, it was gone. I didn't know where it was gone. Where did it have gone to? Well, I looked around me, and it was getting dark, was coming on awful fast, and I realized the sky is so dark, there's no stars, I don't have nothing to guide me home, and I'm lost, I guess, and I guess I better just lay out of the night here. So I found a nice big balsam tree. It had these big branches on it, and I went there and I made my little camp there. There's still a little bit of light, and I gathered me some plants that I could eat, and some mushrooms, and got me water from the stream nearby, and gathered me up some leaves so I have a place to sleep, some sticks and leaves from my fire, and got my fire going. And I laid my rifle up against the tree there. And then on the limb of that tree, I hung the powder horn, and I hung the pouch. And then after everything was ready, I sat down by the fire and had myself a little time of remembering that me and my daddy used to go hunting. And I was a brave boy in the daytime, but at night, I could get awful scared, and he'd pick at me. And he'd go, making wild animal sounds, like a panther or a bobcat or something. And my hair would stand on my head. It was, woo! And then pretty soon I'd hear some sounds coming back at me. And I would throw more wood on that fire, and I'd stir it up. There'd be lots of fire and lots of light there, because that would keep the animals away. So I was just remembering that of hunting with my father. Well, I thought I got sleepy by that time, and so I put the fire out. I used water, because I didn't want to have no forest fire. So I got the fire out real good, and I got into my little bed of leaves there, and finally went to sleep. Well, during the night, it seemed like I could see some light just coming up under the eyelids, a little bit of light shining in. So I opened them up a little bit. You'll never guess what I saw, but that moon had come out. Oh, it was a little crescent moon. Pretty little crescent moon, like a smile turned on the side. And that crescent moon, though, was getting closer and closer. Oh my gosh, it was getting right behind that tree. And the tip of that crescent of the moon, it went right under the straps of my powder horn in my pouch, and it lifted them off of that limb, and it took them on up to the sky. And I reached up to grab it. It was too late. It was gone. It went way up into the night sky. And I said, I must be dreaming. I'm dreaming. I went back to sleep thinking, tomorrow morning, everything was just the way it was supposed to be. So I got up the next morning, and I looked at my powder horn and my pouch. They was both gone. And they hadn't fallen down on the ground either. And I was thinking, what? Did I really have a dream? Was I dreaming all that time when that happened? I can't quite believe that. I don't understand it. But there I was that day. I was sort of stuck. I didn't have no ammunition, so I couldn't do any hunting. So I just decided to explore a little bit and look around and gather a few more things. And toward evening, it just seemed like the day passed just like that. And pretty soon, had my campfire and put it out good and went to bed again and sleeping. Because I thought I will have to lay over a second night, whether it was a dream or whether it wasn't a dream. Because maybe that crescent moon would do a kindness to me and would leave my powder horn and my pouch back on the limb that night. So I went to sleep with that thought in my mind. Woke up the next morning, opened up my eyes, and the powder horn and the pouch was right on that limb, right where I left them. I knowed I was dreaming. I knew knew I had been dreaming all that time. I was so happy. So I got my powder horn and my pouch down, and I loaded up my rifle once again. And I said, well, I'll just get a little bit of something to eat before I go back to see Rebecca. So I went out and looked around, and towards that stream, I saw that same doe, that deer over there. Oh, yes. So I got a good bead on that animal, and kapow! Oh my gosh! The gun barrel exploded, burst in 2 pieces. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, maybe that wasn't a dream after all. Maybe it was a dream. I don't understand. Maybe the moon took that thing up into the sky, and some electricity electrified that gunpowder. Something was wrong. Only thing I know is that one half of that barrel went way over yonder and killed a bobcat. And the other half of that barrel went way over yonder and killed 5 partridges in a pear tree. Well, I looked back to the stream, hoping the deer would still be there, but that doe, that deer, that female deer had disappeared. It was gone. Well, so there I was, in the woods, my rifle, all that messed up, but over by the stream I did see something else. Little otter popped his head out the water there. Oh yes it did. It popped his head up and it looked around to see what was going on, and then it saw me and it fell back down. And you know what? It was so fast that I barely had time to get a snapshot. So we made the program. How about that? And that's a story called Laying Out of the Night.
You got the yoke.
Well, I should yodel. You're right. That is a kind of yodeling tale. But I tell you what, my voice is so bad. If I don't have to strain it anymore, and you don't have to hear it and mess up your ears hearing it, maybe I just will skip the yodeling for right now, and we'll just do it another time, unless you insist. You insist?
Oh, I insist.
You insist?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you got an insister over there. Well, all right. If you insist that I got to yodel, then I insist that you help me out. So, I'll do a yodel song. A song that has a yodel in the chorus of it. So every time we come to that chorus 4 times, then you will help me yodel. And that way, you don't have to hear me and I don't have to hear you. It's a win-win situation, okay? And it's a real simple yodel. It's something like, I'll lead a lady, oh, the lady, yeah, the lady, oh. I'll lead a lady, oh, I'll lead a lady, yeah, the lady, oh. So, you'll pick it up real soon. We'll give it a try. And this is called the Bobcat Song. Oh, I've gone up to the mountains where the bobcats stay. And when night comes on, that bobcats are gonna come around. Oh yes, that bobcats are gonna come around. And they'll scream so loud that the hair is on my head. Here we go. I lead a lady, oh lady, yeah, lady, oh lady. We'll get better as we go along. Oh, I'll tell you right now, I got a body as brave as any man. Yes, I've got a body as brave as any man. But when that bobcat comes around, my legs won't stand. Here we go. I lead a lady, oh lady, yeah, lady, oh lady. Well, I'm not gonna make love. No, I ain't gonna love her. No bobcat, no caribou once the bobcat got after me, and I run so fast that I run my head in a big hornet's nest. And those hornets stung my head until it was so sore that I had to send and buy out the whole drugstore. Here we go. I lead a lady, oh lady, yeah, lady, oh lady. You're running out of gas. Well, one more verse, and I wrote this for my wife, Rebecca, the golden-haired bride of Scratch Britches Mountain. Oh, I'm not gonna make love to no bobcat, no countless bumblebees. No, I'm gonna make love to some pretty girl whose eyes shine like diamonds and whose hair looks like gold. Now, her nose may be a little bit crooked, but it'll only match her toes. Oh, I'm gonna love her everywhere she goes. Here we go. I lead a lady, oh lady, yeah, lady, oh lady. You! That's the great Bobcat song. Great grammar. Well, thank you very much. That's a fun song. I like it. Thank you for helping me out on that. It is 7. There's a wonderful program coming up down the way you need to go. Just want to say very quickly, thank you for coming. And I would like you to give a nice round to all of the family who came today to support Wiley and brought things to the city hall, your books and me. And one more thing. The mountains have always called me, you know. They've been calling me all my life, from the time I was born on up, right through all my years. And I hope that the Smoky Mountains call to you too, and I hope you answer that call. And I hope you take the time to go out on these beautiful trails and see all the wonderful things that are out there. And I think it'll do you real good. Thank you for coming, and you have a good rest of your evening. Thank you now. You're welcome. Did you turn it on this time?
You fellas did a great job.
Yeah, especially crawling in the log. That was really well done. Accurate.
Appreciate it. Hey, the singers who you like the most? Yeah. The last one. One of the kids. Oh, the first one. We got lots of the boy. Yeah. And that was her great uncle. Where's she go? She was in the party. Didn't you know, baby? She's a good one.
That'll do for tonight. Remember, we love you. Jesus loves you. More.